It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
That you made it. So, of course, it's going to be open phones the entire program, which I give you open phones every single day of the week, but on Friday, it's the entire program. Couple of things to get out of the way first, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've spent a lot of time on this kind of stuff before, all right? But I just heard that, I talked to you about it yesterday. President Biden signed an executive order on gun violence. And one of the things he wants to do is have a committee go off and we need another committee, of course, a committee to go off and study gun violence in America. And I heard that, and my first thought is, if the first thing you're going to do is have a committee study, we've already got a problem. Next, they're already off the mark. It's gun violence? All right, how about just violence? Because as we've talked about before, I don't care what tool somebody uses, whether they pick up a gun or a knife or they hit someone with a car or they strangle someone to death or beat them with some beatable inanimate object of some kind or poison them. We can go on and on. I don't care. It's about why people want to commit violence in the first place. So the idea of let's study gun violence, what about knife violence? And pick all the other ways that people do harm to each other. You're not going to study that, too, because that's just as dangerous as gun violence. So they start already off the mark. Okay, I might get into that a little bit later on this morning, but that's just something I heard before I came on here. All right, since it's Friday, I'm going to grab something here, which I think I heard and I thought it was amusing. Thought I'd share it with you. So I've had a problem for quite a long time, since I was very young, with the idea of modern art. Now, let me explain what I mean by modern art before I get into this. Let's take someone like a Wyoming-born guy, Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock was born in Cody, Wyoming. And if you've never heard of his work, then just go ahead and just Google it or use your search engine to take a look at it. And what you'll find is a guy who took a canvas and threw it on the floor, then took a bunch of paintbrushes and just started splashing paint around on the canvas from above. And so what you have is just a bunch of splashed and splattered paint. And somehow that was called great art. And it shot him to fame. And to this day, there are those who consider him to be a great living artist. And I never have, because I look at it as splashed and splattered paint. And during the course of my life, I saw all sorts of other things, many things, which I look at as just garbage. Here's my definition of it. See, I'll never try to define what art is itself, because, look, if it speaks to you, it speaks to you. It does. That's your decision. That's up to you. And it's usually more of an emotional decision than anything else, but okay. But I will define what is talent. And this is my definition you wouldn't find anywhere else. Talent is your ability to do something that not just anyone can do. And the fewer people who can do it, the more talented you are. Anybody can take a canvas and throw it on the floor and grab a bunch of paintbrushes filled with different color paint and just wag their fingers over it and splatter paint. Anybody can do that. Therefore, it takes no talent to do it. So here's a story about, they call him an art provocateur. He keeps going to galleries where there's supposed to be different kinds of modern art, sculptures and so on, and he just destroys them. Now, some of the so-called sculptures that they have here, I'm looking at pictures of them, and again, I just kind of look at it as garbage. It's just nonsense what people are doing and calling them sculptures. So this guy goes up to this one piece, which it's made out of, It's something I guess that you would go ahead and fire in a kiln. I'm not sure what the material is, but so he goes. Somebody made something that's supposed to be a sculpture and put it up on display. And if you look at it, it's just nonsense. So this guy goes into the gallery and just smashes it and destroys it. And now it's just pieces laying there. And I'm looking at the pieces laying there, and I'm thinking, how can you, if it's modern art, how can you tell if the pieces laying there in a pile were or were not the actual sculpture in the first place? Because the broken sculpture is no better looking than the original sculpture. So what they could do, instead of saying someone destroyed this piece of art, instead what they could do is just say that that is the modern art. And there would be those people, but dumb enough to walk in and go, ooh, look at that, wow, and really feel like they're supposed to be inspired by it, even though it's actually a shattered piece of something that was never really art in the first place. Now, in the story that I'm looking at here, there's one example after the next of just garbage pieces of work. One of them is kind of hard to describe. Imagine taking some PVC pipe and corners, as you would with PVC pipe, using the corner fittings. Now make a box. That's it. Now go ahead and paint it up with some colors. There, that's it. Yeah, so a PVC box, which means no sides to the box, just the outer edges, right, in corners. And then paint it up with some colors and put it up in some gallery and call that a piece of artwork. That was one of the items sitting in a gallery, and this guy goes in and just smashes it. Now, all of those pieces laying all over the place, to me, look every bit as interesting as the original PVC square that was built in the first place. What I also thought was really interesting is when people do something that they call modern art, garbage, really. And then they put a price tag on it. This thing has been valued at $10,000. Really? Okay. I mean, if you can get some moron to pay $10,000 for it, go ahead. It's worth what people are willing to pay for it. If you want to put a worth on it, it's really worth what people are willing to pay for it. And if someone's willing to plunk down $10,000, that's their mistake if they think that's actually worth that, but okay. To me, though, it really is interesting that someone goes and destroys it. In some cases, let's just try this. There's a painting on a wall. Now, by painting, if you're thinking of what? No, really, just splattered paint. Again, a canvas with splattered paint. So this guy goes over to destroy it, and he'll maybe if he tries to splatter more paint on it, how could you tell? So you can't say it was destroyed. Now, those eco-activists who will take a can of soup or paint or whatever and try to splash a Monet, you'd be able to tell. But if you had just a bunch of splattered paint and you put more splattered paint on it, what's the difference, right? So then he walks up and with a blade, a knife, a razor, whatever, and he cuts up the canvas. So now you have a cut-up canvas of splattered paint. He destroyed it. How can you tell? Maybe he improved it. If you think in terms of modern art, maybe he improved it. How about that? Iran and Fort Danger, maybe they were trying to say that modern art is trash. Well, that's certainly what I'm trying to say. I'm going to see if I can pronounce this right. Tonkyle in Cheyenne. Morning, Glenn, your reception isn't as good as usual. There's a static in the background. I hear that too. I do hear a little bit of static in the background. So I tell you what here. Miss Mary, I'm going to try to turn. No, that's not going to be right. Okay. Tell you what, during the next break here, I'm going to try to reset this. I'm actually in Cheyenne right now, and it does sound sort of staticky in the background to me, too. Miss Mary, do you hear that? I'm going to go ahead and try to reset this thing as we get into this first news and information break. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
So, of course, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. And, Miss Mary, if you can let me know about my levels here. I'm trying to fix the problem because I did hear that little static in my ear, too. And I got rid of it, but I just want to make sure when I got rid of it that I also didn't do anything to hurt the volume at the same time. So, one thing I'm going to disagree with, I just heard it on the Ag Report, that part of the program that we play every morning up to the time. Something that I would disagree with that former President Trump wants to do should he become president again. John Deere wants to take a bunch of its tractor manufacturing and move it south to Mexico. And Trump said if they did that, he would impose a very heavy tariff on John Deere because they moved. And he doesn't want them to move south to the border, so the tariff would be to prevent them doing it. My first reaction would be, before you did that, what is in the way of John Deere manufacturing here? Now, you could say, well, we have higher prices. Definitely have higher prices in labor here in the United States. Okay, that's true. But if the quality of work is better, then it's worth the labor cost. That's been shown time and time again. We can have better quality here in the United States because we have better workers. So it's worth, people will pay for that. But what can we do to help reduce the cost to make it easier on John Deere? And that's from the local level on up to the federal level, where I would take a look at what are the taxes and what are the regulations. And let's start streamlining just the hell out of that, because if we streamline that, I mean, seriously streamline it, it then becomes a lot more affordable to manufacture here in the United States rather than having to ship everything all the way down to Mexico, make it there, ship everything all the way back up again. So, as far as what Trump wants to do, it's worse now, can barely hear. Okay, let me go ahead and turn that up a little bit more. Just working on some of the volume problems here, but I don't want to blow everybody out. That's Crane Doctor and Sebring saying worse now. There, how's my volume now? So I think in most solutions when it comes to manufacturing problems, it's always going to be a bit more expensive to manufacture something in the United States because we do have higher labor costs here. We make more money here. And so, yeah, some things it's just cheaper to manufacture them overseas and then send them back just because of lower labor costs. However, there are things we can do in the United States to make it as affordable as possible so manufacturing actually looks attractive. And that would also be allowing companies to keep more of the profit that they make. Now, there are those, well, you're trying to give money to the billionaires out there. Fine, let them keep their money. If it's manufactured, instead of putting a tariff on them as punishment for moving abroad, instead reward them for staying here by letting them keep more of their own money. How about that? And so that's where, yeah, I would take a look at the tax code itself. And this is not just a matter of how much we tax a corporation directly. Instead, I would say, let's see, static in the background, and I am quieter. I just turned everything up a little bit, so let me know. And Miss Mary, if you can let me know, too, because I just went ahead and cranked it up on my end. So I'm wondering, am I getting some of those messages just a little bit late? But you see where I'm going with, let's reward people. The carrot and stick thing. Let's reward people for staying here by making it easier to do business and letting them keep more of their profit. Then they will keep manufacturing here, and all of that savings and quality can be passed along to the consumer at the same time. I mean, it's even, there are some on the Democrat side especially. If a company moves to another country, just to get lower taxes, for example. The Democrats want to tax them more because they left the country. You're punishing punishment with more punishment. It just simply is not going to work out for you that way. It's not going to work. It'd be a whole lot better instead, I would say a whole lot better instead, to reward them for doing business in America by lower regulations, making it easier to do business in America, and allowing people, even big corporations who make their money in America, to keep more of the money that they make. Make it worthwhile to do business in America. Make it an attractive thing, and keep it that way. Don't have it change the next time. Oh, thank you, I'm getting. Crane Doctor, are you hearing me much better? Everybody else is saying Big Wave is saying sounds much better. Okay, I might have adjusted it to fix the problem. We'll see. I am in, Cheyenne, Wyoming broadcasting this morning, and we have this remote box that I call the tricorder because it kind of looks like Spock's tricorder. It kind of does. And that's what I use to hook up with Miss Mary, and she runs the board on the other side over there. But sometimes we have to adjust a couple of things. All right, we're coming up on some local business that we have to take care of after a local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I go ahead and get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
Okay, so, thank you guys, and thanks for expressing your concern there because I was wondering what I was hearing in my headphones. I'm in Cheyenne right now. Miss Mary is running the board over there in Casper, and everything sounded fine until we went on the air. So, Miss Mary, I just switched over to Facebook Messenger, just because our teams, for whatever reason, we weren't connecting there. So let's do a real quick one right now. So just go ahead and tell me how my volume is, because it sounds to me on my end, it sounds okay. Turn it up more, please, she says. Okay. So there's a little bit more. And I like the way she goes, P-L-E, capital A-S-E. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, here we go, a little bit more. So I'll have to turn down some of the volume on my end so it's not blasting my ears out. So there's a little bit more. Don't want to overmodulate anybody out there. And yeah, she's more. Sounds way better, she says. Okay, even Jim Cunningham is on Facebook Messenger saying, perfect. Okay, good. And it sounds better in my headset, too. Don't know what happened there, but sometimes adjustments need to be made. So thanks to everybody, because we want this to sound really good when we're on the air. And these kind of connections are actually, I think, yeah, it sounds better in my headphones, too, because I was getting a lot of that staticky sound like everybody else was getting. So, don't know why, but that's what you get with a remote connection. What worked last week might not work again this week. But, okay, between all of us, Miss Mary and I, and you listeners out there, we got it. Now, Jim, since I was talking about taxes and regulations, he said labor costs, the value of the dollar, the decrease over 40% over the past 4 years. We have to import huge percentage of the raw materials because we don't have manufacturing. Okay, now, Jim, you've nailed it. And Jim knows because he's in that kind of a business. You absolutely see. Sorry, you sounded fine. Yep, I'm not sure what happened there either, Miss Mary. I think it's on my end. Jim, I think you nailed it, and I want to bring this into the next hour of the program as well, because I think this is a really important discussion to have. What happens is, between local government all the way up to your federal government, more taxes, more regulations. And those taxes and regulations don't just affect materials, but labor costs as well, because we want everybody to have all sorts of different health care and et cetera, things that people want, but the more burden we put on to the producers, the more the costs go up and up and up until eventually businesses start to move out of America because it's just too onerous to do business in America. So everything winds up being done overseas. Now, it's not bad that some things are done overseas. That actually, in some cases, can be a good thing. Believe it or not, that can be a very good thing if some manufacturing is done overseas. All right, but how about doing it here in America on any scale? Well, we're not doing anything in America, much in America right now at all. We should be producing steel here. We used to be the best on the planet at it. We could bring that back. But why did it go overseas? Because it just became too onerous to do it here in America. So rather than, this is all started, if you're just joining me, folks, because Trump had said during a press conference, John Deere wants to move its manufacturing to Mexico. And he said to John Deere, if you do that, I'm going to raise a big tariff on you. He doesn't want them to move. And my answer is, why punish John Deere even more? There's something I disagree with Trump on. If you really want to solve the problem, let's start working on why companies are leaving America. And it's a whole list of problems with rules and regulations and taxes that need to be cleared up. Now, again, American labor is always going to be a little bit higher, but that's okay if the quality is higher. I will pay, I'm sure you will too. I often do pay a little bit extra for high quality. Now, over all my life, I heard my father and my father's friends say, buy American. Yeah, well, if the American product is overpriced and if it's not as good quality, then why would I do that? Because it's my patriotic duty? No, I want my money's worth out of this. I want the best product at the best possible price, and we can certainly do that here in America again. But it's going to come from releasing a lot of the burdens that we've allowed to be placed on ourselves. So let's start getting rid of a lot of that burden. And this is where it comes down to, once again, let's get the big government man out of the way, because they're not making things better. They're making things far worse. So let's get them out of the way. All right. So how do we do that? All right. When we get into the next hour of the program, I'll go through some of the ways, and if you have some suggestions that you can offer our friend Dan, who's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it's National Morning Show Host Day. Oh, wow. Happy Morning Show Day. Okay. Et cetera, et cetera. I'll have to read the article. Thank you for that, Dan. If anything, morning show hosts do not need a holiday. 6:42. Here's an update with your weather forecast, extended forecast from Don Day. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, I've got a feel-good story to help get your weekend off on the right foot.
All right, well, let's hear it.
Okay, we start off with a UPS driver who's around the town of Buford, Wyoming. He's alongside I-80, and he sees, as he's driving his route, a suitcase. Now, this is one of those hardcover suitcases with the wheels on them and all that kind of stuff, just laying off on the side of the road. He opens it up. There's a lot of kids' stuff in there, clothing, things like that.
The kid is in the suitcase?
No. That would be a bad story.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, this is a good story. Just the kid's suitcase, okay? And the kid's clothes in there, plus some personal items. And some of the personal items look like they're the kinds of things that people don't like to lose. So he reaches out on social media and finds a family in Colorado. By the way, Buford, population 1. Remember that?
Yeah. Okay. The gas station. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I can imagine that falling off the roof rack or something like that. So, okay. Doing a little bit of tracking there, the short story is the suitcase winds up all the way back down in Colorado with the very grateful family who never thought that they were going to get that suitcase back, especially with some of the prized possessions that were in there that they thought they were never going to see again. And it's all because of a UPS driver who found the suitcase and decided to go ahead and do the work of tracking down who that could possibly belong to. And imagine if you got nothing but the suitcase and the evidence inside, you've got to start playing detective here, right?
He's a UPS guy, so they have to do that by their jobs to find addresses. And stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Was there an address on the suitcase?
I don't know.
Or what evidence was inside? He used social media, started tracking people down, but he did the work and found the family down there in Colorado. Kid, suitcase, and those important possessions reunited. Everybody's happy. So to the UPS driver who runs the route up there in Buford, which I can imagine if he's up there's only one stop he actually has to make. Yeah. Thanks for doing all of that work.
My faith in humanity is restored.
Okay.
Until it's not, which would be probably about another hour and 15 minutes from now.
An hour and 15 minutes, you got that timed out.
Yeah, pretty much.
What happens in an hour and 15 minutes?
Something will happen where you're like, really?
Okay.
What's wrong with you people?
Will you let us know when that happens?
I certainly will.
I appreciate it. Go with sports.
All right, high school football statewide in Class 4A. Sheridan at 4-0 will host 3-1 Kelly Walsh. Cheyenne East will be at home tonight to meet Natrona. Both teams are 2-2. Laramie's at home tonight to meet 4-0 Campbell County. The Plainsmen come in at 1-3. Cheyenne Central at 1-3. They'll be in Gillette to take on Thunder Basin. And Cheyenne South at 0-4. They will be at home to take on Rock Springs. In Class 2A, Burns will host Bighorn, and Bighorn is a pretty good team. Glen Rock will be at Wheatland also in 2A football. And 1A six-man, KC will take on Riverside tomorrow. And Encampment will take on Casper Christian tomorrow. In college football, the winless Wyoming Cowboys will be hosting the Air Force at 6 p.m. tomorrow in Larry. Folks have played some poor football so far this year at 0-4, but this is a game where they have to show some major progress or the team is going to end up in irrelevant mode. Fans are already not happy with what they've seen and the team does not want to lose their fans. Folks are banged up injury-wise. We'll see which players are on a short lease for Saturday's game in terms of performance. Air Force is 1-2 with back-to-back losses to San Jose State and Baylor, and the folks are 4-point underdogs. That is a 6 p.m. start tomorrow from Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL, the Denver Broncos will be in New York on Sunday to meet the Jets. The Broncos are coming off a nice win over Tampa Bay on the road, but they also lost their leading tackler, Alex Singleton, to a knee injury, and he's out for the season. He is going to be hard to replace, and the Bronco defense will have to deal with Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Denver is 7.5-point underdogs in that contest. In high school volleyball from last night in Casper, Kelly Walsh beat Natrona in 3 straight, 25-8, 25-10, 25-23. Today, Campbell County will be at Laramie. Cheyenne East will be at Thunder Basin. Sheridan will be at Cheyenne South. In 3A, Rawlins will be at Burns, and then Glen Rock will be at Wheatland. The state high school tennis tournament going on in Gillette. This is day 2, and it'll be going on over at Thunder Basin High School, Campbell County High School, and Bicentennial Park. So it'll be going on all day today, and then tomorrow it'll be the last day. They'll have all their championship matches be at Campbell County High School. And high school cross country, Glen Rock with a meet today, Saratoga with a meet today, Wind River also with a small meet, and Cheyenne East and Cheyenne Central will be in the Littleton, Colorado meet. And that's it in sports.
So Tampa and Atlanta, sports-wise, they may not be able to have any home games for a few days.
Maybe well, Atlanta plays indoors, but if you cannot get through with all the flooding, they're not going to have anything.
Exactly.
And Tampa Bay, you're not going to get anything anyway. I mean, they got a lot of rain.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cleanup to do, and then it won't take them that long to get back into shape again. But okay. See, Glenn had a feel-good story for Frank. 5 seconds into the story, the kid was in the suitcase. Laugh out loud, she says. Yeah, way to go, Frank. That was great.
See?
I had a feel-good story. You put the kid in the suitcase, Frank.
I did.
You did, yes. He didn't need to be in the suitcase.
Okay. So I've lost faith in my own humanity.
You probably did, yeah. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Hyundai.
The time, it's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. Phone lines are open, 888-97 Woods. That's 888-97-WOODS, plus all the people, and you can be one of them, who are texting me with the Wake Up Wyoming app. You just go to your app store. It's as easy as that. Type in Wake Up Wyoming. It downloads. It's free. And then if you want to say something to me, you just go ahead and hit chat. And I'll go ahead and see the message. And I type back and I talk back to people when I see anything on the chat message. Okay, so I wanted to pick up something from last hour and toss it by you people who get up just a little bit later. I was listening to news, which of course is a bad thing these days because most news just absolutely sucks. But anyway, I was listening to news. And they were quoting former President Trump. He's worried because John Deere wants to move manufacturing down to Mexico. And they've been one of the holdouts. John Deere has been around for a long time with most of what it does here in America. But they finally reached a point where, well, if we're going to survive, guess we'll have to move down to Mexico. So what Trump wants to do is he's saying, if I'm president, you do that, John Deere. I'm going to slap a tariff on you. Big one, too, to make it not worth it. Now, let's back up a little bit. I'm going to pick on both Democrats and Republicans on this. Why has so much manufacturing left America? Now, some is okay if people are looking for cheap labor costs. It also, international trade helps in a lot of ways, not just those other countries, but us as well. So I'm not entirely against moving some manufacturing to other countries, depending on what we're talking about. It can actually help a company survive. As an example, there was a Wilkesboro, North Carolina, little town, and they had a sock factory. Well, the sock factory was struggling, not because of quality. Quality was great, but the price of their socks was high, very high. And so their competitors were beating the tar out of them, and they were about to go out of business. So they moved the manufacturing to India. Now, right away, people thought, well, what's it going to do for all the people who are working in Wilkesboro, North Carolina? Actually, there's more people working at the company in Wilkesboro than ever before. They ended up hiring more people. And the reason why is reducing the price of manufacturing by going to some foreign labor factory allowed the company to become competitive. And as soon as they became, and it's very good for the town in India who's manufacturing socks, they certainly needed those jobs. That's great. So now the company in North Carolina now has to hire more people for marketing and distribution and bookkeeping and et cetera, et cetera. And so now the North Carolina company is more profitable than ever before, and they have more employees in Wilkesboro than ever before because they moved their manufacturing overseas. So you see, it's not always a bad thing. But here in America, it's not like we have no manufacturing. We do have some. But how difficult is it to do? And oftentimes, companies go overseas because it's been made impossible to do business in America. So we can start on the local level with local regulations. I've even seen companies here in Wyoming. There was one company that wanted to open up a small factory in Gillette, but Gillette made it so impossible. They ended up looking at other Wyoming towns like Hewlett. And Hewlett was happy to have them, and it was actually very easy to open up a company and manufacture something in Hewlett because Hewlett didn't have a lot for rules and regulations or taxes or anything like that. And that's what companies are looking for. So, yeah, even towns like Gillette can run off businesses by being just too onerous with the regulations. I'm here broadcasting from Cheyenne today, and I know that in Cheyenne there's one store which is a smoke shop in Cheyenne. They sell tobacco products, and they wanted to expand because they see all the people coming up from Colorado to get cheaper tobacco products here in Wyoming. But in Cheyenne, it was so difficult to expand the company because of regulations from the city of Cheyenne. They decided just not to do it, which is a shame because they could have expanded the business and hired more employees. So you see, that kind of regulation right there can hurt businesses. Then you got to take it on a state level. Now, Wyoming, as far as states go, is about one of the easiest places to do business. But there's other states that make it even easier than that. There are some states, though, that make it so difficult, which is why some states like California, New York, have people moving out of state because it's just impossible to do business here. I got a big laugh out of some years ago. New York tried making a deal. If you want to start your company, you can start it in New York with what they call Startup New York. And they made an enterprise zone where you can sign a 10-year contract with New York to start your business in New York. Now, I'm not sure what the deals are afterwards. After 10 years, do you have to stay there? Because now, all of a sudden, all regulations and rules and taxes apply after the 10-year period. But they were thinking that doing that would encourage businesses, companies, to move to New York and start a company in New York. Well, New York, if you think that's what works, then why not make all of New York that way? All of New York State is that way all the time. Then what would that do for businesses? So on the state level across the country, rules, regulations, taxes, et cetera, et cetera. Now we get to the federal level. Now, earlier this week, I went ahead and played a piece for you. It was a woman who owns, it looked like a salon. And in that salon, she was explaining to her very young employees what it takes to pay them. And part of it, not all of it, just part of it was payroll taxes. Because in order to pay her employees, she has to pay a tax on that money. There's what she pays the employee, but she is taxed on what she pays the employee. And if that's not ridiculous enough, once the employees get the money, then the money is taxed again. Then the employees go to spend that money, and the money's taxed again. Now, that's just a small example of what you employers out there know what I'm talking about. It's a small example of what employers have to do just to keep employees. There's a lot that employers have to pay out in order just to keep employees. Now, if a company is into manufacturing, every time a product or an employee or money moves, the factory has to spend money on all of that. They have to pay taxes, rules, regulations. And not just on the state level or the local level, but on the federal level too. Making it so difficult to do business in America that many companies find they can't, and they just pack up and go overseas. So rather than just tacking on a tariff, I know foreign employees are going to be cheaper. They make less per hour than an American employee. But if you want to encourage American companies to stay in America, make it worthwhile to do business here. Not just by reducing the rules and regulations and taxes, but in general, just make it more profitable. John Deere would be perfectly willing to stay in America. They don't need to be threatened with a tariff if they leave. That actually makes the situation worse. John Deere they would love to stay in America, reduce the burden, release the burden, get rid of most of it, and just let them do business. And if they make a massive profit, well, good for them. And let them keep it. Now, right away, you would have some yelling, well, you just are letting billionaires make more money. Good, because in order for a billionaire to get rich or richer, they have to bring a whole bunch of employees along with them. It's good for the economy. So let them do it. So I would disagree with Trump or anybody else who would say, if John Deere leaves, we got to go ahead and punish them with, no. Encourage them to stay by making it profitable to stay. 7:15 is the time. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Want to talk to Glenn? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Okay, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. So, Miss Mary, I'm going to regret this, I know. I went ahead. In the kitchen here, the coffee maker also has a side that I can make little K-cup coffees. And I thought, hey, I'll just go ahead and, because I don't want a whole pot, I just want a little bit, right? And there's one K-cup in there, just one. But it's a Dunkin' Donuts coffee with a caramel flavor in it. Now, some people might look at that and go, ooh, that sounds delicious. I've lost my sweet tooth, you know that. But I made it anyway, which means someone's going to, even though that thing's been sitting there, by the way, that K-cup's been in there for like 2 years. I'm really going to regret this. I'll probably take one sip and throw the whole thing out. I haven't done it yet. I'm waiting for it to cool down. I'll let you know how this works out. Probably not well. All right, so as long as I was talking about manufacturing and so on in America, do you remember, well, a lot of you do. You grew up with, starting with the Carter administration, we were going to, wishing you luck, says Miss Mary. Yeah, I'm going to need it. We grew up with the Department of Energy from the Carter administration that was supposed to get us off of foreign energy and domesticate everything, right? Okay, decades go by, and we became more and more dependent on foreign energy. There, once again, is government trying to fix a problem, and we just become more dependent the more they try to fix it, which is why I don't trust government to fix anything. Todd and Casper says, why manufacturing anything when the government will pay people to stay home? It started during COVID. Hasn't stopped yet. Yeah, that's true. Well, and actually, if you think about it, they've been doing it long before since COVID. But, yeah, COVID, they really ramped up paying people to stay home. So things just get made in other places. Okay. Let's take a look at the department. Well, we didn't really become energy independent until the Trump years. And then we were for a while, and now we're not again. We do export a lot of energy, but we become energy dependent once again. And it was shown, obviously, the way to become independent is, again, let's get government out of the way, let the market take over. Here's a story for you, Cowboy State Daily. Wyoming's tiny 80-acre oil and gas lease sale, a bust waiting to happen. And the story says, bust isn't a word the oil and gas industry throws around lightly, but bust could readily describe Wednesday's oil and gas lease sale here in Wyoming. Bureau of Land Management offered just 159 acres in a sale. That's not much, which netted $27,593.80 after two 40-acre lots, one in Crook County and another in Fremont County, getting no bids. With Wyoming dependence on federal oil and gas production, lease sales that net basically nothing spark worry among industry officials. They're waiting for a bust to happen. And they do say in the story, busts don't happen right away. Now, you in the cattle industry know this. If you, let's say, have a bad year for producing calves, it's not really felt in the marketplace immediately. It's felt a little bit later on. And the same thing can happen with energy. So we could be heading for a bust here, but it wouldn't be happening right away. Kirkwood Oil and Gas, landman Steve Delvinger told Cowboy State Daily on Thursday his company didn't bother bidding on the properties because of the sale's small size. 40 acres doesn't make a difference to an exploration when you're trying to put together 20,000 or 50,000 acres, he said. It's hard to say why the two tracts didn't receive a bid. One possible explanation, he suggested, is that tracts weren't nominated by industry. BLM does, he says, put up some themselves. No professional experience usually results in putting up tracts that no oil and gas company thinks have any prospects, really. If they're nominated by a company, it could have been many years ago. Maybe the company has moved on to other states where they can deploy capital more easy. So Bureau of Land Management officials told Cowboy State Daily by email most of the mineral acres it offers for lease come from an expression of interest by the industry. But, okay, once again, what if? Do you remember the big boom we had? And this was a big boom we had some years ago. I was on the air here in Wyoming, and I mentioned we found a whole bunch of oil up in North Dakota. And there's enough oil up there that actually could have, and it'll provide hundreds of years worth of petroleum energy. Hundreds of years worth of petroleum energy. We have loads of energy, and that's just North Dakota. And right away I got calls from people saying there's not that much oil up there. Oh, no, you start fracking, and yes, definitely there is. Now, suddenly we had an oil boom. We had a North Dakota oil boom. It was huge. Now, Obama was president at the time. He tries taking credit for it, but it happened despite him. It was happening on private land, not federal land. And so a lot of regulations just did not exist. And so people were able to get in there and get to work. In fact, I do remember, I haven't brought this up in a while. And so back when Sarah Palin was debating, and she was debating Joe Biden for the vice presidential seat. And she said during the debate, drill, baby, drill. And Biden said, well, it doesn't make sense. You find oil somewhere, it takes 10 years to get to it. And I'm thinking, Joe, you know damn well it takes 10 years to get to it because of government. It was shown in North Dakota that if you find oil somewhere, you can get to that real fast. I mean, within a matter of months, even just a couple of months, they got a full well going and they're producing. But the moment you get in all sorts of government regulation, you go through the Bureau of Land Management, it can take up to 10 years. And even then, after all the money has been spent paying on the lease during that time, paying on all the different studies, handling lawsuits by environmental groups, by the time they finally get the green light to go, many companies have walked away by then. Because that was 10 years that it took them. There's no guarantee, even after the 10 years, that they will be able to drill there. After all the money and time and energy they spent. So anyone wonders why we're not energy independent again as a nation when we easily could be. Now you see the reasons why. And that just played out here in Wyoming, once again, with these oil and gas leases up there. Oh, by the way, I did come across some stories past couple of weeks that oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico and some other places, same kind of thing as BLM and other government agencies tried to slow it down to a crawl if they allow it at all. And so once again, putting the squeeze on domestic energy here in America. And you wonder why so much manufacturing and production of any kind has moved overseas. Coming up on 7:30, we got local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. We'll talk to Don Day about your weekend weather forecast. Don is still bored because not a whole lot has changed in the forecast, but we'll see if we can cheer him up. And during this news and information break, I'm going to try that little cup of coffee that I made with the K-Cup thing that's been sitting in this station for a couple of years, and it just sounds disgusting, but I'll let you know. If I sound like I'm about to throw up when I get back, it didn't go well. So Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Just so you know, my coffee experiment did not work out like I thought. Just to get you up to speed, I just wanted just a little bit more coffee. I had some more early this morning. Just want a little bit more. And I'm at the studios of KGAB, which is right on Capitol, just a couple of blocks from the Capitol in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So I go into their kitchen, which is a brand new kitchen. It's beautiful in there. And the coffee machine is really nice. And it's got two sides to make a regular pot, or you can make a little K-cup thing. And I just wanted one little cup there. So I thought, I'll go ahead and do the K-Cup. The only thing they had was a K-Cup that it was a Dunkin' Donuts caramel coffee. And I thought, that just sounds gross. And it's been sitting there for at least a couple of years. That can't be good. What the hell? Give it a try. All right, so I made the little K-Cup thing, and it didn't smell good. I took a sip, and oh, Lord. Smells like someone took old caramel and just dumped it into the coffee there. I tried one more half sip and went, nope, and it's just gone. So, no, that didn't work out. The good news is I don't feel ill. I'm not going to fall over sick or start throwing up or anything like that. That I'm aware of at the moment. So far, so good. Hey, you in Marbleton was saying that what was happening in North Dakota during those years was not fracking but horizontal drilling. Okay, I thought they were fracking up there. All right, thank you for that. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Fine by me. I say several things. As long as I'm talking about engineering and manufacturing, and I got into energy, I got several here. It's just a matter of which I want to go to. This one I can touch on real quick. Once again, electric vehicles. Let me see. Another 46% fall in Germany for sales. Okay. That's it. And they're trying to manufacture more, but people are buying less. See, a new campaign for climate patriotism. Oh, we'll have to touch on that this morning. Because, no, you need to be a climate patriot, you understand. It's patriotic. We'll get into that at some point this morning. But this one I want to touch on. There's an interesting website, sometimes interesting website, called Human Progress. This guy tries to overall remain positive. Sometimes he can't, but he writes articles about the wonderful things human beings have done. Because you always hear so much negative news, but he's talking about the wonderful things that human beings have done. This one, though, he can't help but to be a little bit negative. He says, appliances contribute to human progress, but regulations threaten their affordability. Well, isn't that the truth? Human progress, he says, has devoted a considerable amount of attention to home appliances, and for good reason. Given the tremendous differences they have made in our lives, whether it's heat-related, deaths averted by air conditioning, foodborne illnesses prevented by refrigeration, improvements in indoor air quality enabled by gas and electric stoves, the liberation of women worldwide facilitated by washing machines and other labor-saving devices, which, by the way, I know some people are going to get mad at me for this, but I always get a laugh out of it. Every so often, I see a post by someone online, and I've even heard people say, I hate doing laundry. You don't do laundry. You have never done laundry. No, don't look at your radio like that. No, you haven't. And the machine does it. Back in the old days, you would have had to have done everything by hand. And I mean, that's including creating the soap, but everything by hand. So doing labor, really, laundry was an all day, if not a couple of days, labor to do laundry. Back then, people didn't have that much in the way of clothing anyway. But today we have a lot more in clothes, partly because we can just throw it in the machine. No, all you do, you throw it in the machine, you throw it in the dryer, then you fold it. So really all you're doing is folding. The machine does all the work. You don't do laundry. The story says, of course, the benefits of home appliances accrue only to those who can afford them. And on that count, the trend has been very positive. Although many appliances started as luxury items within reach of no one other than wealthy people. But, thank you, capitalism. For example, the first practical refrigerator was introduced in 1927 at a price prohibited to the vast majority of Americans. But by 1944, 85% of households had them. Other appliances have similarly spread to the majority of households in first developed nations over the course of the 20th century. Now developing nations have the same things that we have here. But then we start with government rules and regulations, especially to fight climate change. And now, the more efficient they try to make a washer and dryer or refrigerator or whatever it else is, the less efficient it is, and the more expensive it becomes. So all of a sudden, this great invention that saved so many lives, not just made our lives convenient, but saved so many lives, is getting out of reach. Let's go talk to Don Day about the way. I got to cheer him up. Don's bored. 7:42 is the time. Wake up, Wyoming.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake up, Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
5's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day with Day Weather. Don, we're here to cheer you up. I don't hear him there. Hang on. He'll be on it just... Miss Mary is having a little bit of trouble getting a hold of him there. And she said, oh, there he is. Yeah, I hear something in the background. Are you there, Don?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. Okay. So, you went across to this great international high-altitude balloon fest. Then you come back to Wyoming where absolutely nothing is happening, and that's got to be a huge letdown. If you had decided to take a vacation to Florida to get involved in a hurricane, we would have completely understood.
Yeah, well, there were enough crazy people, storm chasing that one. I spent too much time last night watching storm chasers stand in parking lots. It was silly.
The one that got me was, having lived in Tampa for a while, there's the Midpoint Bridge. There's 3 bridges in Tampa, the Midpoint one, Howard Franklin Bridge. And that's got, like a lot of bridges in that area, a couple of islands with some big, tall bridges in between. And I saw vehicles out on that thing with the storm surge pouring over top of it, in which case I'm thinking, you guys deserve everything you're about to get out of that. Meantime, here in Wyoming, we had a little bit of a breeze yesterday. That's the biggest story we had.
Yeah, and that wind will be down a little bit today, and we're still looking at really nothing of any consequence. We're going to cool off a bit Monday and Tuesday. You'll feel a little fall in the air, but the chances of rain are if it could be below 0, it might be.
Okay. All right. So now, again, next week there's a little bit of a change there, but do you see anything in your long-term trends? Because at some point, we're going to have to pay dearly for this nice weather.
Yeah, Mother Nature is the great equalizer of things, and the pendulum can easily go the other way. But we have probably through next Friday, another week where the only thing that will interrupt this pattern will be occasionally a windy day. Temperatures next week aren't going to be maybe as warm, but still well above average. Next weekend, we do see something trying to come on in. Now, whether or not it's a minor system or a bigger one, I don't know yet. But starting with that system next weekend will kind of set into motion a weather pattern that's going to be different than what we have now. But we have another 5 or 7 days here where we're going to be able to enjoy some great weather.
In the meantime, great time for fall leaves, so just get out there and do that. All right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. 7:48 is the time. Let's head over to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, I came across something. I love it when people post stuff like this on social media. I thought I'd bring it to your attention. Someone's just imagining, like you work at a bubble wrap factory, right?
Okay.
Imagine
and then people
the
want to step on me.
Yes, imagine the self-control you have in order to work at a bubble wrap factory and not spend the entire day popping the bubble wrap.
Right. Or wrapping yourself in the bubble wrap and then just rolling yourself along the floor and then see how many of those things pop. And if and all the co-workers are like, well, I'll help you. And then they kick you down there and then it breaks more of the bubble.
Frank has bubble wrap experience, obviously. I can tell just by listening.
Sometimes it's a good way to kill 15 minutes.
Sure. Now, I did.
One at a time.
This is many years ago. I was asked to give away something on air and run a contest. And they didn't have anything really for me to give away. We need to do contests on your show. I had at home, from a move I had recently made, a big roll of bubble wrap. So I ran a contest to give it away on the air. Now, the boss at the time was getting mad at me because he didn't think that was to him, that was just the dumbest thing ever. Why would you give away a big roll of bubble wrap? And I said, when's the last time you sat down with a roll of bubble wrap and had at it? And the lines lit up, Frank. People wanted it.
Boy, cheap entertainment at its finest, right?
Sure. I could have had concert tickets to some really cool band, but no. I could have had free lottery tickets to give away. How would you like to get keys to a new car? No. We have bubble wrap instead. And I don't know what there's something stress relieving about it.
Because it gives you power.
It does it?
Yes.
It's a power play with you?
You can control that bubble wrap, yet on the same time, if you don't abuse it, it will help you in moves and stuff like that. So don't abuse it too much.
I think when I come across people who are suffering through a lot of stress during the course of their day, and they're just getting angry and frustrated, that I think we should have across America just bubble wrap rooms where people can just go and sit down and just sit there popping rolls of bubble wrap to stress relieve. I think as Americans, we would be a lot less stressed if we all had bubble wrap rooms across the country.
I don't see people doing it individually with their thumb and their index finger. I think they're just jumping up and down with 2 feet as hard as they possibly can.
If they're that angry, then absolutely. See, again, Frank has techniques for this. 7:51. Go with sports.
All right, high school football in 4A. Sheridan at 4-0. They've won their last 35 games in a row. Will host 3-1 Kelly Walsh, and 2-2 Cheyenne East will host 2-2 Natrona. Campbell County at 4-0, and they will be in Laramie to take on the Plainsmen, who come in at 1-3. Cheyenne Central will be on the road at Thunder Basin and Gillette. Central is 1-3, and Thunder Basin is 0-4. Rock Springs at 2-2 on the year. They will travel over to Cheyenne to meet South, who comes in at 0-4. In Class 2A, Burns with a tough game tonight. They'll take on Bighorn. Glen Rock will be on the road at Wheatland. And 1A 6-man, KC will take on Riverside tomorrow. And Encampment will take on Casper Christian tomorrow. College football, the winless Wyoming Cowboys will host the Air Force at 6 p.m. tomorrow in the Mountain West Conference opener for both teams. Obviously, the Pokes have played poorly so far after this 0-4 start. But this is the game where they really have got to show major progress for the team, or they will be in irrelevant mode. Fans are not happy with what they've seen, and the program certainly does not want to lose to fans. And this team is banged up with injuries, so they're going to have to figure something out. Plus, we'll see what players are on a short lease on Saturday's game in terms of their performance. Air Force is 1-2 on the year with back-to-back losses to San Jose State and Baylor. They've only haven't scored very many points in the last 2 games. That's unusual for the Falcons. Cowboys are 4-point underdogs. That's a 6 p.m. start tomorrow from Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the National Football League, the Denver Broncos will be in New York on Sunday to meet the Jets. The Broncos are coming off a nice win over Tampa Bay on the road last week, but lost their leading tackler, Alex Singleton, to a knee injury, and he's out for the season. Boy, he's going to be hard to replace. He had a ton of tackles last year, and it was an unsigned free agent back in 2015 out of Montana State. So the Bronco defense will have to deal with Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers without their leading tackler, and Denver is 7.5-point underdogs in that game. High school volleyball from last night in Casper. Kelly Walsh beat Natrona in 3 straight, 25-8, 25-10, 25-23. Today, Campbell County will be over in Laramie. East will be at Thunder Basin. Sheridan will be at South. Rollins will be at Burns, and Glen Rock will be at Wheatland. The state high school tennis tournament continues today in Gillette. Those matches will be held at Thunder Basin High School, Campbell County High School, and Bicentennial Park. It's a huge event. So the Cheyenne Central boys and the Cheyenne Central girls are the teams to beat in that deal. So that'll go all day today and then all day tomorrow with those championship matches over at Campbell County High School. High school cross country, Glen Rock with a meet today, Saratoga with a big meet today, Wind River with a small meet today, and East and Central from Cheyenne, they'll be in the Littleton, Colorado meet. That's it in sports.
So I was in a room yesterday where there's a television running, and somebody had a baseball game on, and I went, oh, those are the Colorado Rockies. And so I started just for a few minutes, I sat there to watch to see what really bad looks like. And I realized if I, of all people who know nothing about sports, can tell that these guys are really that bad, and they were really bad, Frank.
Yeah, really bad? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if I can tell, then that tells you how bad they really are. Because even I was watching them going, you guys suck.
Yeah. Sometimes I think after a while they just mail it in. The season's going to be over, like, we're done.
Just kind of show up and throw the ball around.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care. We're going to roll into news time after that. And open phones. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Day.
It's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, you can just jump in and change the subject if you want. That's fine. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Before I get into the topic I have lined up, news top of the hour. Vice President Harris will be heading down for a photo op, of course. Will be heading down to the southern border to talk about the border. And, of course, in order to do that, she's got to be seen at the border. Now, because she has never seen what the border looks like, really. So, and most of the people who support her have no idea what the border really looks like, other than what they see on television from time to time. So my thought is the Harris campaign could save a lot of time and a lot of money. You don't have to take her actually to the border. Just take her to some ditch somewhere. Wherever she is now, just go find a ditch somewhere or a river, something like that, and go take her there and set that as the backdrop and tell everybody she's at the border. And the people who support her will believe her. She'll even believe that she's really at the border because she's never actually seen it before. I think that's probably the best thing we can do. Also, if she really wanted to know what the border was like, rather than going someplace like she's going to go for this photo op, which is all being cleaned up for her, she would ask to be dropped someplace where the worst of it is, which is easy to do because there's a lot of places that's the worst. Take her just to the worst of the place and drop her there and let her experience it. Or, this is a great idea. There are homeowners. Some live in cities. Some are ranches out in the middle of nowhere. Go visit some homeowners and spend a little while there, not just an hour or so, a couple of days, and experience what it's really like to be someone who lives right close to our southern border with all of the mess that's going on. How about take Kamala Harris over to some town where a lot of illegals have shown up to basically set up camps and so on, and let her just stay in that town for a while and experience what is going on. I don't mean stay at the finest hotel and eat dinner at some nice restaurant. I mean go experience it. Then get back to us on what needs to be done about it. Now, she will, while at the border, try to blame Trump because in her mind, Trump is the reason for the border crisis because Trump encouraged the Republicans not to vote for border legislation, which is absolute nonsense, of course. Judy is on the phone. January 6th findings. Morning, Judy.
Oh, yeah, it is like 81 pages of explosive. Poor little Liz Cheney, she's exposed. Her panties are around her ankles right now.
Okay, you don't have. Okay, we don't need those kind of visuals. We really don't.
Okay, anyway, everything that I've been saying all along that the committee was illegally constituted. They were supposed to have 13 members. They only had 9. Pelosi handpicked all of them because what McCarthy had put forward she wasn't happy with. Remember, like Jim Jordan, I think, was one of them. And, oh, God, what was the other guy's name? Anyway, there was 2 or 3 guys that McCarthy wanted on this board that would have constituted a legal board, right? Well, they didn't do that. Okay, and then Cheney is not a member of the majority party. Okay, she was a minority party at the time because they had control of the House. Anyway, so that was done wrong. But anyway, they had asked Raskin at first to be on this board, but no, he suggested Cheney. Okay, go figure, huh? How convenient, one crook to another. There was no ranking member. They didn't. Oh, when Hutchinson Cassidy said that Trump reached over the seat and grabbed the steering wheel from the driver, that never happened. That was all made up. Cheney talked Cassidy Hutchinson into firing her attorney, and they hired an attorney for her. This whole thing was just, everything I've said has been true. And, I mean, the report is just explosive. It's 81 pages, but everything in it just goes exactly the way we thought it was. It was a big production put on by a guy who does productions for made-for-TV movie kind of thing. The whole thing was bull. I hope the judges are smart enough in this to know that they need to drop all this stuff against Trump, that he's been innocent on every single one of these things that they have gone after him for. In fact, Robert Goulet, he's an attorney in Arizona. He just did the transcript from the documents case in Florida and found out that Jack Smith I think that's his name, is it? Jack Smith. He arranged all of that evidence into so they could do a picture. It was not found that way, like the news had said. Media lies. That's all there is to it. Media lies. Anyway,
okay, so now that we have all of this, what do you think that the news media? I think they ignore this. I think they don't even touch the story.
Bury it. Oh yeah, they bury it like an old body. But Liz Cheney should bend over and get ready.
Okay. See, again, visuals. Visuals. We don't need, Judy. We really don't need the images out there. Nobody wants to picture that.
You know how much I love her, Glenn. You have a good weekend down there.
You too. Okay. She's colorful with the language, isn't she? There's a certain visuals you don't want to have. Some of you, I know, look, it's like 8:13 in the morning right now. Some of you are eating breakfast. And you really don't, you spit your coffee across the room, if not across your vehicle, because Judy's giving you visuals of Liz Cheney that, frankly, you just don't want to hear. No, after everything that came out in the report that Judy was just talking about, my thought is what little the news media does cover, and they won't cover much, they're not really going to talk honestly about it, obviously. They're only going to cover this if they absolutely have to cover it, because they've already done the damage, well, as much as they can. They'll try to do more damage if they can. And they're not really going to spend the time letting the public know any other information. It's like many of the other topics that I bring up and talk to you guys about on this program. If the news media deems it something that they think you're supposed to know or something that you're supposed to think, and I'm talking about what we would normally call the legacy press, then they'll go ahead and push that on you. But if they don't want you to know it, then they're just silent about it. Let me see. Jason in Douglas. Good morning, Glenn. Hey, I'm traveling from Douglas to Denver, starting to get a lot of static. Okay. I will go ahead and see. Let me see. Try switching. He wants to know which to switch on. Which station in Cheyenne? 650 is where he wants to go. I'll go ahead and type that to him as well. And wondering if there's going to be mariachi bands and tacos, says Chet and Yoder. I don't know. Oh, you mean when she goes to south of when Kamala Harris goes south of the border? Probably. I would say probably. 6:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, if you want to get in on the program, and you don't have to talk about what I'm talking about, you can change the subject. 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. So earlier I was picking on Kamala Harris because, and I'll be honest with you, because it's easy to do. It's low-hanging fruit, and I'm feeling a little lazy today. So all I had to say was she is planning a trip to the southern border to hold a press conference, and we don't really no one needs to actually take her to the southern border because she doesn't know what it looks like. Just take her to some river or some ditch somewhere and say that's the southern border. What does she know? She'll fall for it. And so are her followers over at MSNBC. They'll believe it. Oh, yeah, it's the southern border, obviously. You don't want to actually take her to where anything really is going on because that would be just horrifying. She wouldn't know what to do with that. Nor would anyone over at MSNBC. So, next one. She did, speaking of MSNBC, Harris did do an interview on MSNBC just recently. And it was horrible. To the point, so bad, don't just take my word for it, to the point that even the New York Times is giving her grief about it. I'll get back to that in just a minute. Meantime, now this is going to be kind of funny here. She misspelled it. Greag from Laramie is wanting to Greag. Yeah. So, hello, Greg.
Great.
Yeah, right. She made great. Of course she did. Morning, Greg.
Morning. How you doing, Glenn?
Okay, good.
You were talking about basing things on junk or terrible science, and I want to point out that our Secretary of State Chuck Gray bases almost everything on junk. Mm-hmm. He got elected by the 2,000 Mules, and then I watched him at the September 19th 2024 Judiciary Committee evoke John Lott's work in support of the repealing gun-free zone policy. And I want to point out that John Locke's work is crap and should be debunked, as it's obvious that crime did not fall because America flooded the zone with guns. That is the most ridiculous argument. And if we are basing our policy on repealing gun-free zones in Wyoming based on that book, we are absolutely a crazy group of people, and following Chuck Gray is just a terrible thing to do.
Okay. Because personally, I don't know about you, Greg. Let's just say that you and I were in some place together, right? And let's say we're at a restaurant, you and I. We're having lunch together, right? And I'm taking this on a real-life situation that actually happened in Florida. I remember the case because the woman testified in front of Congress shortly after it happened. And let's say some crazed gunman jumps into the restaurant and just starts shooting people up. Now, I don't know about you, Greg, but I would like the ability to shoot back.
Look, Glenn, if you look at crime in America and about that would ever happen, it's absolutely reduced compared to what Chuck's talking about and then compared to what America's talking about. America's gotten better since 1990. Crime went up briefly, during the COVID pandemic because we sent people home to their loving family and filled them with alcohol. They bought 8.5 million new guns and shot each other. There was no roving gangs. Again,
crime is really
it is not there.
Crime is really up right now. I mean, drastically up across America, and a lot of it has to do with the illegals in this country.
The FBI stats came out. Crime is down again.
No, it's not, actually. Did you see the Department of Justice report that just came out? No, it's not, actually. Did you see the Department of Justice report that just came out? Crime is actually at a massive spike right about now. Violent crime, especially, all across America.
Murder's down. Carjacking is the only thing that's up. I read the 2023 FBI data.
Did you read the Department of Justice data? Did you read the Department of Justice data? Okay, go check that out. Get back with me on that one. Go check out the department. No, wait. Are you saying you don't want to read something that might debunk what you just said?
Well, why don't you read something that will debunk what I said?
Well, I did. I actually did read that report, and I can tell you did not read the entire FBI report, nor did you read the Department of Justice report, because crime is up, not down, and a lot of that has to do with what's been flooding across our southern border.
Look,
but as usual, you avoid the question as well. But
America banning naturally occurring plants. You're going to talk about something that should be 10th Amendment. Is that plants should be illegal in America, and it should be a state by state. So
it's interesting how you change the subject every time. It's interesting to me how every time we get in. I'm not changing the subject. I'm on the subject here. In fact, let's go. Not only has crime gone up, according to the Department of Justice and the FBI report, which I read both those reports, but Greg, you also failed to. Let's go back to what I originally said. You and I are in a restaurant. Some guy comes in and starts shooting the place up. What's your plan? I plan to shoot back.
Glenn,
yes,
you are. Again, another corner case. Why do you live in fear?
I don't live in fear. I live in reality. These things do happen.
I am not. I'm not going to miss the revolution. I got plenty of guns.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to get shot out here.
Okay. So you would. So if the guy breaks into the restaurant and starts shooting the place up, you will join me in shooting back. Are you armed?
Glenn, I could be armed or not armed. I don't care. I don't. But here's
that's not answering the question, though.
Carrying around that 10-pound piece of my Glock is not worth it because I'm not afraid of society. Why are Republicans afraid? tinfoil
Okay.
hats.
Well, no. It's not tinfoil hats. It's not tinfoil hats. Here's something you could do if you really want to have a really great afternoon that will blow your mind. There are several websites, and I'd be happy to send several of them to you, that go ahead and, that would really help you a lot. But that would, just head down to Colorado, have a good time. But you go down, there are websites out there that have lists of local stories, because national news never covers this stuff. They're local stories. And they're all over America of how people defending their homes or their businesses or other people because there was a good guy with a gun, and there's so many stories that happen all across America every single day.
0.05%.
No, wrong. Absolutely wrong.
0.05.
No. I don't know where you got that number from, but that is completely bogus. Absolutely bogus.
The trustees meeting on gun policy yesterday, Glenn.
Yes,
I was there. Repealing gun-free zones is ridiculous.
No, it's not. But again, if I'm in any building and someone starts shooting at me, I would like to just be able to defend myself. Now, if you don't want to defend yourself, Greg, your call. You're in a free country. You do it your way. I'm also in a free country.
I got an Apple computer. I'll use it. I got a.
You're going to throw your Apple computer at him.
I'm not. It doesn't happen, Glenn. Maybe
it does. It does. It happens all the time. You liberals are constantly screaming about how we have to ban guns because of all the people being shot up by guns, but you're refusing to let people defend themselves against those bad guys.
I'm never going to ban guns. I want to ban nutters from having guns.
That's not going to happen because they're going to get the guns. You can pass all the laws you want. They're still going to buy those guns.
That's because sheriffs and county attorneys are too chicken.
No, because there's a thing called a black market. No, Greg, there's a thing called the black market. Okay, there's a thing called, and they can get around your sheriff, and they can just do it, out of sight, and they do all the time. Okay, I got to run because Frank is coming on real soon. Thanks for calling in, Greg. I appreciate it. 8:45 is the time. Let's wake up one.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Okay, Frank, so we have that big refrigerator right across your office there.
Yeah.
Here at work.
It's clean some of the time.
Most of the time. It's not. But okay, I get it. Sometimes I'm afraid to open it, wondering what's going to grab me and pull me in there. But all right, here's a note, because people have to leave notes on their food so it doesn't get stolen, right?
It happens here, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, here's someone who left a note on their food. Do not use, I spit in it. That would definitely help.
Well, then I know that nobody spit in it because he put a note on it that said people spit in it.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. And I love the one that said, I know what's in here, 1 piece of chicken and 4,722 pieces of rice.
Okay.
No, that's pretty good. Let's see. Please check your food. Something has died in here. Thanks. That's a good note.
Yeah, I've seen that here, actually.
Yeah. Stop eating my soup. I know who you are. I'm watching you. I mixed a little oxy powder in the soup today. Careful.
Huh?
Okay. Yeah. So I love the one that someone put a note in there. My cake, don't eat. And when they opened up the refrigerator, only the plate was left with a note that said, don't tell me what to do.
Well, you can have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Let me see here. I know the Dow just dropped 600 points, but please don't eat lunches that aren't yours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes it. You can make an argument for that. Yeah, okay.
I think everyone really needs to carry one of those, those mobile coolers. I mean, you can put them over your shoulder nowadays. With
just
a
bring that
and a pop. Then you don't have to screw with the community refrigerator.
Yeah. Here's one that I really do like. Debbie did not put a note on her food that said Debbie's. Debbie put a note on everybody else's food saying not Debbie's. See, that's just thinking creative. Go with sports.
All right, high school football, plenty of it all around the state today, and then some of it tomorrow. In Class 4A down in Cheyenne East and Natrona will play at Oakey Blanchard Stadium. Both teams are 2-2. Campbell County at 4-0. They will travel over to Laramie to beat the Plainsmen, and they come in at 1-3. Sheridan at 4-0 and rated number 1 in our Wild Preps poll will host 3-1 Kelly Walsh tonight. Cheyenne Central was 1-3, and they will be in Gillette to take on 0-4 Thunder Basin. Rock Springs at 2-2. They will be on the road in Cheyenne to meet Cheyenne South. Also in 2A football, Bighorn, a very good team, will be on the road at Burns. Glen Rock will be at Wheatland, and 1A 6-man KC and Riverside will play tomorrow, and Encampment will take on Casper Christian also tomorrow. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will host the Air Force Academy at 6 p.m. tomorrow at War Memorial Stadium in Laramie in the Mountain West Conference opener for both teams. Pokes have played some poor football. It's been very well documented, but this is a game that they've got to show some major progress or they're going to be in irrelevant mode. Fans are already not happy with what they've seen, and you don't want to lose the fan base. Folks are banged up injury-wise, and that's always a big concern. We'll see which players are on a short list for Saturday's game in terms of their performance. Air Force isn't world beaters by any stretch. They're 1-2 with back-to-back losses to San Jose State and Baylor. Cowboys are 4-point underdogs. That's a 6 p.m. start from Laramie tomorrow night. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League, the Denver Broncos will be in the Big Apple to meet the New York Jets on Sunday. Matter of fact, they never even traveled back from Tampa Bay. They just stayed on the East Coast in practice and then moved up to New York. So they did beat the Bucks the last week, giving Tampa Bay their first loss of the year and the Broncos' first win of the year. However, the Broncos did lose leading tackler Alex Singleton to a knee injury in that game. He's out for the season, and he's going to be hard to replace. Bronco defense will have to deal with Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and Denver is 7.5-point underdogs in that game coming up on Sunday. High school volleyball today. Campbell County will be at Laramie, Cheyenne East over at Thunder Basin. Sheridan will be at Cheyenne South. Rawlins will be at Burns, and Glen Rock will be at Wheatland. Yesterday, Kelly Walsh defeated Natrona and Casper in 3 straight, 25-8, 25-10, and 25-23. The state high school tennis tournament moves along today in Gillette. The Cheyenne boys and girls are the teams to beat, and these matches will be played at Thunder Basin, Campbell County High School, and Bicentennial Park. They'll go all day today and then start all day tomorrow beginning at 8:30 in the morning with those championship matches over at Campbell County High School. And in high school cross country, Saratoga hosts a big meet today. Glen Rock also with a meet, Wind River with a small meet, and Cheyenne East and Cheyenne Central will be in Dowling, Colorado to compete in the Littleton meet. And that's it in sports.
And this is important for everybody at this weekend's game. Homecoming.
Yes, homecoming. So the parade downtown, I believe, starts at 11 in the morning. So you have all these institutions from the university with floats and stuff like that. And I forget who the Grand Marshal is this year, but it's a good way to start the day right downtown, you know. Okay. Then you migrate over to the stadium for tailgating. Then you migrate into the stadium for the football
and bring your
game.
tailgating on, because as important it is for the team to win this weekend, it's important for you to show the other team how good you are at tailgating.
They already know.
Oh, okay.
They already know.
Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. It's a national local update on your weather forecast. Then more open phones, including answering Greg, which I ran out of time before I was able to say everything I wanted to say. So we'll do that, too, with your phone calls. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
Helene's aftermath on Jack Callahan, Fox News. Damage from what was a Category 4 hurricane at landfall still being assessed.
Power outages, stranded people, and damaged homes and businesses are expected to be tallied as first responders begin to move through Florida's Gulf Coast towns and cities, from Fort Myers up to north of Tampa Bay, all which took the brunt of wind and storm surge over many hours. Helene's official landfall, where its eye came ashore, was south of the town of Perry in the state's Big Bend region.
Fox's Evan Brown. While the wind gusts peaked at 160 miles an hour, for many, flooding is the biggest problem.
I had about 2 feet of water in my entire neighborhood, and it was fresh water, which means the water had nowhere to go.
And man, in Tampa, where there have been scores of high water rescues, flash flood warnings stretch from northern Florida to western North Carolina. The National Weather Service warning of possible catastrophic flooding There have been at least 6 deaths blamed on the storm. Strong words from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to the United Nations General Assembly this morning.
I have a message for the tyrants of Tehran. If you strike us, we will strike you.
Netanyahu said Israel continues to seek peace but must defend itself. Federal grand jury has reportedly indicted several Iranians, charging them with hacking into and stealing information from the Trump campaign. Those indictments still under seal. Ukraine's President Zelensky is meeting in New York at this hour with former President Trump, telling him,
I think we have a common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped and Putin can't win and Ukrainians have to prevail, and I want to discuss with you the details of our plan.
The former president says he believes he can bring the Russian invasion to a quick end should he be reelected. Vice President Kamala Harris is making for the southern border for the first time in her presidential campaign today. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here with urgent news. The world's central banks are making unprecedented moves, and it's time to pay attention. In 2022 and 2023, they bought more gold than ever before. And now in 2024, the trend is accelerating. Why? Because central banks have lost faith in the dollar. And in these uncertain times, gold is the ultimate safe haven. If you too are worried about the dollar, I urge you to take similar action by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold with my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 9898.
Sunny and warm, temperature readings well above average. We're going to be into the 80s here in Casper today through Sunday with overnight lows in the 40s and 50s. A bit of a breeze at times, although today not as windy as yesterday. Overall, it's a sunny, warm, and dry forecast through Sunday. Monday and Tuesday staying dry, but a little breezy. And Monday and Tuesday cooler with highs Monday 60s, 60s, and 70s Tuesday. I'm day weather meteorologist Don Day.
These are real stories of speech-language pathologists and the people they helped. He was in his 30s.
55 and far from home.
15 years old with multiple disabilities.
It was a traumatic brain injury.
He's bilingual but lost his English after the stroke.
Several surgeries led to his swallowing disorder.
His goal was to get back to work.
I used French during therapy.
Others almost gave up on the goal of him eating.
Oh, he was dedicated.
Together, we built his life back.
Social interaction was the key to helping him.
And he made it back to work.
When he ate, his friends cheered.
Everyone has the right to communicate.
And later, he was able to travel across the world to his family.
Are you or someone you know experiencing a speech, language, or swallowing disorder? An ASHA-certified speech-language pathologist can help. Visit us at asha.org/public.
I always tell people I was the luckiest guy in the world. I wanted to be an army man or a fireman, and I got to do both. As a firefighter, my job was about saving lives. I never thought one day I would be fighting for mine.
After spending his career answering the call to save others, Ken was diagnosed with ALS. Now he's facing his biggest battle, for more time. For 70 years, Muscular Dystrophy Association has been answering the call to help people live longer and more independent lives.
MDA means to me hope.
MDA is leading the way for people living with ALS, muscular dystrophy, and other neuromuscular diseases by accelerating research, advancing care, and advocating to empower families like Ken's.
I wouldn't be living as good of a life with ALS if it wasn't for MDA. MDA is helping people live stronger and love longer. Learn more at MDA.org today.
What grows in the forest? Trees? Sure. Know what else grows in the forest? Our imagination, our sense of wonder, and our family bonds grow too. Because when we disconnect from this and connect with this, we reconnect with each other and build family memories we will carry with us forever. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. It's easy. Just put in your zip code to find family-friendly outdoor destinations near you. You'll also find guides to free activities, games, and amazing forest facts. Give the magic of the outdoors to your kids and reconnect with your family. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Boy, I get a lot of reaction here after Greg was just on the phone. So Greg is from Laramie. Now, I did have one. Let me scroll back up to the comment on this. You should watch the video. Nope. Okay. There we go. And Bill, who's listening in Chicago. There is no reason to give the idiot Greg that much airtime. He can't even shut up for 5 seconds to listen. Mouth like a cannon, always shooting off. Well, yeah, but now, the thing is, here's the deal, just so you know, Bill. We do get occasionally a call from Dave, who's in San Francisco. And I say San Francisco that way because Dave is really snooty. He is an obnoxious jerk. And I always hang up on him within just a few seconds because he's just an obnoxious jerk and he's not worth talking to. He's just condescending, insulting. Greg and I disagree on pretty much everything. However, Greg is funny, fun, polite. Yes, he interrupts a lot, so, I'll interrupt him a lot as we're arguing back and forth. But at least Greg is an honest discussion. So I go ahead and let him go on for a little while. Plus, I don't want to be in a echo chamber. I want to hear what the other side has to say, and we don't get that many calls from the other side. So when he comes on, good. Now, if you missed it, what Greg was saying was, first off, he was after Chuck Gray, our Secretary of State. And Greg had a lot of bad information about a book that Chuck Gray quotes, but basically the book is about a good guy with a gun, if I really boil it down. And Greg also did not read, if any, all of the FBI report or the Department of Justice report, which shows that crime is up in America, mostly because of the influx of illegal immigration. We have a lot more crime in America. But really comes down to the whole discussion about a good guy with a gun. And Greg is trying to sell the idea not just that crime is down, which it's not, it's way up, but also, well, the number of people who defend themselves with a gun is about 0.5%. No, it's way higher than that. Way higher than that. And also, not just because someone pulled a gun and used the gun, but sometimes, in fact, many cases, just having the gun prevents crime from happening. There was a video I watched just last week. Some punk thug walked into a convenience store with a gun to rob the convenience store. One of the customers, and he pointed it at the clerk, one of the customers pulled his gun. The punk saw the customer pull his gun and the punk ran. Situation over. Now, that's not counted in any FBI report or Department of Justice report or anything like that because there wasn't a shooting. All the good guy had to do was show that he had a gun, and it was over. In many cases, if someone's breaking into a home or trying to mug somebody, if the good guy just has a gun, situation over. And so it doesn't get reported as anything because the good guy didn't even have to use the gun. Now, Greg starts looking up those numbers, you'll find completely different statistics. But it even came down to, and I gave him a scenario. Greg and I are in a restaurant, we're having lunch together, and arguing politics as we always do. And some jerk with a gun jumps into the restaurant and starts shooting the place up. And I said, Greg, I would like to be able to shoot back. What about you? Now, again, as always, Greg tries to change the subject. Whenever I corner Greg on an argument, he tries to change the subject. I would like to be able to defend myself. What about you? How about that? How many people out there would like... Now, he's just not going to worry about it because the odds of that happening is essentially what he was saying. And you conservatives out there, you're just paranoid. Well, I tell you what. Should you ever find yourself in a situation where a bad guy shows up and he intends to do you harm in whatever way, here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to have a gun. No guns. Forget guns. I want you to turn to the bad guy, and I want you to ask him to hold on, please. He'll be polite, I'm sure. Would you excuse me just a moment? I'm going to call the police. And if he tries to stop you, hey, I'm on the phone. I mean, who doesn't react to that? I'm on the phone. What are you doing? And call the police. He'll let you call the police. Then ask him to politely wait as the police get to you. It might take a little bit. And this is not, I'm not knocking the police. They're going to get there as fast as they possibly can. Right? They really are. They're going to get there as fast as they possibly can. But the bad guy, he's just going to have to wait. I'm trying to find where there was a lady who just sent me a note just a moment ago, and I'm trying to find it again to read it. Basically, she was saying that she traveled on the road for years and always kept a gun with her. And there's the next thing. I've met a lot of people like that who are on the road traveling, and they want that gun with them just for their own personal protection, which is in part, not entirely, but in part what our founding fathers wanted when it came to guns, is the idea that, look, sometimes people wind up in a bad spot. They do. Whatever the case is, they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. They come across some criminal element, and that does happen. Should that happen, you know the old saying, again, with all due respect to our police officers, the old saying is true. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. So what are you going to do about that? All right, so even if Greg's numbers, once again, are not true. Okay. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, I think he says something like 0.05%, something like that, of the time that good guys actually defend themselves with a gun. Now, that number is nowhere near true. But let's say it were. So, I don't want to take the chance. I'll go ahead and I'm not going to take that chance. It just so happens that there are people across America every single day that wind up in a bad situation where there's a bad guy or bad guys. And how would you rather handle that? Bert and Cheyenne. Hi, Glenn. Was Greg trying to say that he wanted to be able to own guns, but not you? I wonder about that. See, there's something else that I wonder. Why is it? And I posed this question to Greg, but as always, he avoids the issue. Whenever Greg is cornered, he changes the subject. Why is it that liberals spend so much time trying to ban guns? Right? And they do all this time trying to ban guns. So you can't own one. As if that's going to solve the problem. And yet even Greg says that he does own guns, but he doesn't want someone to be able to defend themselves with a gun. And Greg seems to be in denial of the black market. Because when I confronted him once again that if a bad guy wants to get a gun, they're going to get a gun. Well, if the police and the prosecutors did their jobs, the police and prosecutors are constantly trying to do their jobs. But that has nothing to do with what the black market's going to do. The black market is always going to be out there. The black market doesn't care what the law is. If somebody wants to buy a gun, they're going to get one. And I reminded him last time we had this conversation, because I didn't bring it up. He brought it up. The last attempted assassination attempt against Trump. That guy had 2 felonies against him. So twice over, he's not allowed to own a gun. And yet he travels from Hawaii to Florida, where he buys a gun illegally. Not legally, he buys a gun illegally. In other words, on the black market, he can do whatever he wants. Because the black market doesn't care what the law is. And so he got whatever gun he wanted to go after Donald Trump with. So what good were the laws if he can just go ahead and pick up whatever he wants? So let's review here real quick. Greg has bad statistics that don't exist. Even the number of people who defend themselves with guns every single day in America, he's way off. And he refuses to answer the question that if confronted with a bad guy who has a gun, Greg has no way to defend himself. Okay, I guess, Greg, you would rather just die? I mean, I'd rather be able to defend myself. Doesn't really have an answer for that. Or for that matter, and here's the big part of it. To me, this is the big part of it. The ability for you as an individual to make your own decision. Right? You're a law-abiding citizen. You're not doing anything to hurt anybody. So you owning a gun is not a problem to society. The problem to society is bad guys with guns. And again, passing a bunch of laws doesn't correct that. It doesn't. You, as a law-abiding citizen, have the right to make your own decisions. You have the right to make your own decisions when it comes to whether you want to carry a gun or not. If you choose not to, I'm not going to argue with you. Your call. Or you can carry pepper spray or something else. But your call. Or nothing. Your call. The decision is yours to make. Because you're a free person in a free country, you get to make the decision. It is not up to society to decide that for you. It is not up to the government to decide that for you. It is not up to Greg to decide that for you. You are the one who gets to decide what you think is best for you. So if you are someone who decided to buy a gun and carry it, that's your call. All right? And government's job is to protect your right to make your own decision. Chet and Yoder, Greg, just miserable person insinuating others are as miserable as he is. I'd say that's probably correct. I'm writing Evansville. Hey, Greg, do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Do you have a spare tire in your trunk? Just being prepared, just in case. Good idea. I've always loved that argument, by the way. You have a fire extinguisher in your house? What are the odds of you having a fire in your house, but you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Bookham, Dano, and Douglas. Should we be able to tell the bad guy this is a gun-free zone, you can't have a gun here? I'll deal with that next. Paul in Fleming, Colorado. Good morning, Glenn. I can't remember who to attribute this to, but an armed society is a polite society. Have a great weekend. You too. 9:18, it's Wake Up Wyoming.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
Being patient while I was on a bit of a roll there. Bill is in Laramie. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, on gun-free zones, let me start out by saying I'm definitely against gun-free zones, or like I look at them, most of them are weapons-free zones, so you are not allowed to carry more than a gun or to that point to protect yourself.
Right.
So I'm definitely against that. Greg's from Laramie. That says it all. And I'm from Laramie County, not from Laramie.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a couple instances, the federal government, state government, city government, all of them they're basically immune from, if they decide to have a gun-free zone in a state building, city building, they are immune from being sued when they fail to protect me.
Right.
So they take away my right to protect and defend myself. And what I've always said is, if you want to do that, then you should be held accountable. I should be able to sue you for getting me killed or my family killed because you took my right away.
Okay.
And so if they were to change the state and federal laws that protect them from me suing them when they fail to protect me, then I might consider a gun-free zone. But basically, they're taking away our right to protect and defend ourselves, and they are not responsible. If you look at the Supreme Court decisions,
right,
they are not responsible to protect and defend anybody in the United States.
I think that's a really powerful argument.
And that's what you should tell Greg is, would you be willing to change all your laws at UW and the state capitol and everywhere to allow citizens to actually sue you for damages when their family members are killed because you failed to protect them?
Mm-hmm.
And they won't.
Let me add something to what you're saying. There's actually a law out there that if you are witnessing some kind of let's say there's a woman being slapped around, right, and you don't jump in and help, or at least call police, do something, you will get in trouble for standing by and doing nothing. That's actually a law, and yet your government can stand by and do nothing, and they can get away with it.
Right. I mean, if they want I'm okay with their right to have the gun-free zone, say your private business.
Yeah.
But if it's open to the general public, open to me to walk in your business, then I would take that I'm assuming you are now responsible to protect me.
You're going to protect me because you're not letting me protect myself. The business owner must protect me then. I agree with you. I think that's a strong argument. Let me jump over to James, who's in Casper, wants to talk about the same thing. Thanks for waiting, James. I appreciate it. What you got?
Morning, Glenn.
Morning.
Greg would fit perfectly in Chicago.
Yeah.
I moved from Chicago to Wyoming simply because of the fact Wyoming's freer. You can actually open carry in Wyoming. And you can't even carry a gun in a locked case in the city of Chicago.
Right.
You do that, you go to jail.
Yeah. All right. And then look how bad Chicago is. Look how much of a mess. Especially, and Greg won't want to admit to this, but not only does Chicago have a bunch of thug gangs there that have been causing violent crime, and there's mass shootings every single weekend, especially in Chicago, but now illegal immigrant gangs are showing up, and the two are going at war with each other. That is recent news, and the crime wave is way up in Chicago because of it. But Greg, I guess, wouldn't want to just deny that that's true.
And another thing with Illinois, you got to have a special card issued to you by the state police to buy a pistol, a rifle, or ammunition.
Yeah.
If you don't have that card, you can't even get it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for hanging in there and calling, James. I appreciate it. Sonar is in Rawlins. Hello, Sonar. Illegal drugs are illegal, and look how easy it is for youth to obtain. Again, there's a black market. They don't care what the law is. Tumbleweed is over in KC. Why would you have a fire extinguisher in your house? That's what the fire department is for. You see, I love sarcasm and satire. It makes the point, and those two comments really do make the point. Now, you can call in like these other callers just did and interrupt me if you want, but I'm going to get into a little bit more about why you have the right to do these things and why it's none of Greg's business or the government's business or anybody else's business. After we get through, we got some local news and your weather report coming up. Then you and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods is the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97 Woods or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
9:36 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. I'm getting some real good comments here over what Greg was saying. We were having the gun control debate here. So NJ Cat over in Mills, Wyoming, if cops are not at my side 24/7 in gun-free zones, then I don't need to pay property taxes for their salaries. Okay. And then there's several other comments that people have made, which I think are great comments. Why do you need to carry a gun? As Greg said, you're paranoid. Well, I like the arguments. Do you have a fire extinguisher in your house, in your kitchen? I hope so. Why do you have it? Are you paranoid? Why do you have a fire extinguisher there? Do you wear a seatbelt when you drive? Are you paranoid of getting into a crash? Why? You should, have a seatbelt in you, shouldn't you? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there's so many great answers like that. Why would you have that thing? Are you paranoid about? Well, do you have health insurance? What are you afraid of? So the same reason, we have a lot of tools to save us from a lot of different things. This is why we have those tools. Why do we have 911? Why do we have a call center? We have police. Why do we have 911? We afraid of something? Well, and that's why some people carry a gun. But it really comes down to the argument that I was making before, which I'm going to go ahead and make again here. We are free people in a free country. Now, that is non-negotiable. Oftentimes, there are people, and I do come across these people, they don't want to debate anything as far as they're concerned. You know, like the science is settled, the debate is over, et cetera, et cetera. There's only one thing I'm not going to debate. I'm a free man in a free country. So there's a lot of decisions that are my own. So for those people who want, for example, universal health care, and we all have to join, no, I'm not going to join. I'm not doing it. And I never joined Obamacare, by the way. My decisions. These are my decisions. And it's not up for someone like Greg to make the decision for me or you or anybody else. I don't care what his logic is. It's not his call. It's not his life. Greg, you make your own decisions for your life. I'm going to make my decisions for my life, and the listeners to this program are going to do the same thing. Their lives, they will make their own decisions. So for those who choose to buy a gun and carry it, and I'll tell you why, I do have a little 9mm with me. I've actually been looking at one that would pack more of a punch. And a revolver, so I don't have to worry if one's racked into the chamber. But why do I have it? Well, I have to show up to some radio stations early in the morning. Right now I'm in Cheyenne. Times I'm up in Casper, for example. And in other places I've lived, like when I lived in Tampa, for example, those places too. Sometimes when I show up to work, it's not quite yet 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's some sketchy people around. And I guarantee if I call the cops will come, but it's going to take a few minutes. So that means whatever is going to happen, if something bad happens, it's going to happen in a couple of seconds. There's no time to even dial 911. So what am I going to do? Well, I choose to defend myself. I'm not going to be a victim here. I'm not going to die. I'm going to try and defend myself and preserve my life. My call, my decision. Now, I didn't have to carry a gun. There's other things to carry. In fact, there's even non-lethal guns. You've heard them advertised on this very radio station. So, there's Greg from Cheyenne. Because I can, he said. Yeah, it's your call. You do what you want to do and make your own decisions. Now, for those who choose, I'm not going to carry anything. Your call. If you choose to walk around completely defenseless, that's your call to make. And it's not for anybody to tell you that you can't do that. It's not for Greg to decide. It's not for society to decide. It's not for the people in government to decide. It is nobody else's business. Now, in order to have those rights, here's all you have to be: a law-abiding citizen. As long as you're a law-abiding citizen, you get to make whatever decisions you want, and government's job is to protect that. And so for those of you who choose to be armed, and especially when I'm going to work and back, I am. I don't want to be, but I know the realities of the world I live in, so I am. That was my call. And you go ahead and make your call. And even if your call is something that I disagree with, it's not my business, nor is it Greg's business, nor is it society's business, nor is it the government's business. You decide for you what is the best decision. And I hope you make a good decision. So should you ever be confronted with violence, God help you, because it does happen to people every day all across America. Should you ever be confronted with violence, I hope you made a good decision as to how to handle that. And again, it's not always a gun. Some people like pepper spray. There's many different ways to defend yourself. Your choice. If I could give you advice, I would say find something. If you don't like guns, find something else. Buy some pepper spray if you think that'll work. Get one of those non-lethal guns if you think that'll work. And whatever it is you might want to do, go do that. But that is completely your decision to make. And one of the things I find when I talk to people on the left about not just guns, but any other decision, including health care, they want to take my decision away and your decision away They think they know best, and they want the decision to be made for you instead of you making your own. Well, that's not what individualism is. In a free society, we're not supposed to do what we're told. We're supposed to be able to make our own decisions, good, bad, or ugly, and government's job is to protect that. Here's Rick and Cheyenne. Using a non-lethal method to protect yourself is a placebo effect. You just gave the predator a second chance. Well, depends, Rick. I see what you're saying, but I don't entirely agree with you, but we'll have to do that at another time. 9:43 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Time, Wake Up Wyoming, off we go. One more time to talk to Frank Gambino. So, Frank, I've got just a couple of things I've noticed as we've gotten older here. I want to pass by you, okay?
All right, yeah, you're old. Okay. Well, I am.
Well, yeah. 1 minute you're young and free, and the next you have a favorite pharmacy.
Yes.
Okay.
And some young people have got, they make regular visits to the pharmacy just to say hi, hey, how's everything,
They do.
Anything for me,
Okay. But I have noticed, though, there was one guy I was talking to last night just walked up to me at random and started complaining about his favorite pharmacy closing. Really? Because when I
heard about that.
Yes, when I was like 20 years old, nobody would ever done that as a conversation piece.
Pharmacies are important.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I did talk to, there's a friend of mine who I was in Chugwater, Wyoming, and I walked up and said, so how have things been? She right away starts talking about having to sell 2 of their bulls because they weren't producing.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, in Wyoming, when you are talking to an attractive young lady, that's what she does as a conversation.
Talking about farm animals.
Yes. Yeah. We had to get rid of our bulls because they weren't doing their job.
Well,
go anywhere else in the country, would a young lady say that to you?
No, not really, at least not directly.
No. That's a Wyoming woman thing.
Yeah.
Not putting it down, I'm just saying it is. Okay, one more.
Okay.
So instead of, and a lot of people understand this, instead of going to Starbucks, I make my own coffee,
mm-hmm.
I yell out my name incorrectly,
mm-hmm.
and then I light a $5 bill on fire.
Do you even autograph your plastic cup with your initials?
I should. Although one of my favorite things I saw a while ago, and I think this is the perfect thing, if you're ever on a date and you forget her name,
mm-hmm.
take her to Starbucks.
Well, yeah, they got to kind of reveal that. Although I think some people, they go out and they use some generic name like, Leona or something, to make, restaurant reservations and stuff like that. And who's the name with that? Leona.
Yes, yeah.
That's not even her name.
No, that's not her name. I was asked last night when I went to pick up some food for dinner. The young lady at the counter said, "And what's a good name for you?" I said, "Steve."
Perfect.
Yeah. It's not my real name, but
Steve
it's
is a good name.
It's a good name. That's a perfectly good name. Yeah, so I should just go with that next time. 9:51, go with sports.
All right, high school volleyball from last night in Casper. Kelly Walsh over in the Trona in 3 straight. 25-8, 25-10, 25-23. Kelly Walsh is rated 2 in our Wild Preps poll. Laramie is rated number 1. They're going to host Campbell County tonight. Cheyenne East hits the road for Gillette to take on Thunder Basin. Also in volleyball, Sheridan will be at Cheyenne South. Rawlins will be at Burns, and Glenrock will be at Wheatland. Another round of high school football statewide in 4A. Undefeated Sheridan, who's won 35 games in a row, will host 3-1 Kelly Walsh tonight. Cheyenne East will host the Trona. Both teams are 2-2. Campbell County goes to Laramie. Campbell County is rated 2nd in our Wild Preps poll. They're 4-0, and Laramie comes in at 1-3. Central is 1-3, and they'll take on Thunder Basin on the road, and the Bolts come in at 0-4. Rock Springs at 2-2, and they will be at Cheyenne South to meet the Bison, who are 0-4. In Class 2A, Burns will have their hands full. The Bighorn comes to town for a game there. and Glen Rock will be at Wheatland. Tomorrow, KC will take on Riverside, and then Encampment will take on Casper Christian. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys looking for their first win of the year, and we've said that for over a month now. They will host the Air Force at 6 p.m. tomorrow in the Mountain West Conference opener for both teams. Now, the folks have played some poor football this year at 0-4, and this is a game really they've got to show some major progress, or the team will be in the irrelevant pile. The fans are already not happy with what they've seen, and you don't want to lose your fan base. Folks are ranked up injury-wise, and that's never a good sign. And we'll see what players run a short lease for Saturday's game in terms of individual performances. Air Force is 1-2 at back-to-back losses to San Jose State and Baylor. Pokes are 4-point underdogs. That's a 6 p.m. start from Laramie. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League, the Denver Broncos will be in New York on Sunday to meet the Jets. The Broncos are coming off a nice win over Tampa Bay on the road last week, but lost their leading tackler Alex Singleton to a knee injury, and he will be out for the season. He was an undrafted free agent out of Montana State, and he's going to be hard to replace. The Bronco defense will have to deal with Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Denver is 7.5-point underdogs in the game. Now, the state high school tennis tournament moves along today in Gillette. There's going to be matches at Thunder Basin over at Campbell County and Bicentennial Park. The championship matches will be tomorrow, and they will be starting at 8:30 in the morning, and that will be at Campbell County High School. And in high school cross country, Saratoga with a big meet today. Glen Rock's going to have a meet over at the high school over there. Wind River with a small meet, and Cheyenne East and Cheyenne Central will be in Littleton, Colorado for a cross country meet there. Everyone be safe on their travels this weekend. Please be safe.
According to Frank, the Pokes are winning this weekend.
Yes, they are.
They are.
They are, yeah.
That's it. He has declared it so.
They are.
In fact, he's even called the coach to tell them.
No. He doesn't need a phone call from anybody from like me, because he's probably already gotten 1,000 of them. You're like, oh, what are you going to do? Yeah.
But of course, if they don't win, which they are,
they're going to
win. But everybody's going to give you a hard time. I'm just tossing that out there.
I'm not in the game. I'm lending moral support to people who are down on their luck.
Okay. Yes, so they're winning. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great weekend.
You too.
Let's wake up Wyoming.